Aim. It's a staple in Valorant training. Map awareness and game sense, the two essential tools to help you climb the ladder effectively and efficiently in Valorant. Now, what do these two things have in common? They're the two biggest fundamental blocks for improving in Valorant. They're widely known to be the most important tools to any player looking for improvement. Ask any pro player how to improve and get better in Valorant, they're going to tell you immediately to work on those two factors alone. But what is it that they aren't telling you? What are some of the essential tools that really separate the average from the outstanding, that pro players kind of just neglect to talk about? What really pushes an average player through the threshold of average gameplay? That's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to cover 5 essential building blocks you need to implement into your own personal play in order to thrust you into a new realm of gameplay and thought. Be sure to stick around through all 5 tips though, because we're sure there's going to be something you're going to learn, and there's definitely going to be something you can improve on and be able to properly implement today. Before we get into it though, huge shout out to these SkillCapped subscribers who are reporting massive gains. It's super cool to see you guys doing so well recently, and we're so glad to be a part of your journey. Be sure to check out skillcapped.com to see similar gains. Jumping right into today's video, we have an absolutely crucial facet of gameplay: pre-aiming. Yeah, you heard me correctly, pre-aiming. Now, oftentimes when people hear pre-aiming, their immediate thought is just crosshair placement. And while it is a component of crosshair placement, it's a lot more than that. Crosshair placement and pre-aiming kind of go hand in hand, but there should be a separation and distinction between the two. Crosshair placement is keeping your crosshair at head level at all times. It's essential to learn, and it's one of the first things the average player learns how to do and do it properly. Pre-aiming is placing your crosshair on an angle you're about to peek and swing into. You want to make sure you're trained to have your crosshair aimed on common angles that are played. An example of this would be U-Haul on Ace Sidebind, Ascent Catwalk, and Back Platform on Seaside Haven. The reason this is so important, let me explain. When you peek an angle using only crosshair placement, you're not going to be aiming on the commonly held angle, and you're going to have to adjust your crosshair. Valorant's a game where fights are played out in less than a second sometimes, leaving the winner determined and the outcome secured quickly. The reason pre-aiming is an essential skill to master is that it minimizes the movements and adjustments you have to make with your crosshair in order to win a fight. Sometimes you're able to peek an angle with your crosshair and win a fight solely due to the fact you pre-aimed the player. You may not have to make any crosshair adjustments at all. Mastering pre-aiming is easy, but not a lot of players do it. All you have to do is learn the most common angles and where to expect people to play and place your crosshair on that angle. Once you've done that, peek. That's all there is to it. Once you master this, you'll easily be able to land kills for doing virtually no aiming. This may come as a surprise to some, but yes, keeping your composure is almost essential to winning your games in Valorant. If you're tilting, even vocalizing it will in turn tilt your teammates. Many games are down to the wire, with 1 or 2 rounds being the determining factor of a win or loss. Keeping your composure ensures that rounds aren't thrown away for simple mistakes due to tilting. When you get upset, you play bad. When you play bad, it upsets your team. It's a vicious cycle, and learning how to avoid that is a very good skill to have in your arsenal. One of the biggest factors that causes you to get upset is how you're playing. If you're playing poorly, rather than get upset about it, recognize the why. There are many factors, but it mainly comes down to your playstyle. Yes, sometimes you just aren't landing your shots, but more often than not, it's due to the fact that you're playing the wrong style for the game you're in. You may be getting much too aggressive and overextending while the enemy team is playing back and waiting for you to make a mistake. You also may be playing much too passive and scared, causing you to take bad fights once the enemy team pushes into your position. Recognize the issue in your playstyle, correct it, and bounce back. The second biggest factor is watching your teammates make mistakes. Now, when you notice your teammate make a mistake, don't get upset. Don't yell at them. This can also cause them to get angry and throw the game. Instead, offer a solution kindly and work through it with them. Lastly, for keeping your composure, know when to call it quits for Valorant. The game isn't going anywhere. It's okay to take a break. Breaks are essential in resetting your mental game. Tell me if this sounds familiar. You're playing Valorant, you lose 2 games in a row, and you decide to play until you win the game. From that point on, you're just upset and jaded toward the game. You're playing bad, you aren't working with your teammates to win, and in turn, you end up losing even more games than just 2. Know when it's time to take a break. When you get to the point of being numb to the game, or you're just playing to hopefully recover some elo, take a break. Your mental game is easily one of the most overlooked aspects in Valorant, yet it's also one of the most important. This is a bit smaller of a tidbit of knowledge, but it's something that's easy to implement and it helps your team out immensely. Calling strats for your team. No, you don't need to be an IGL for this, and yes, everyone is capable of doing this, but nobody wants to fill this role. Think of it as directing the flow of water. Without direction or a pipe, the water just flows, unconcentrated, and spreads out across the ground. You're providing the pipe for the flow of your team. You're directing the full force and effectiveness of your team to one common objective. All you have to do to properly shot call and help your team to effectively win is recognize the enemy patterns. Recognize what the enemy team is doing at all times. Are they getting aggressive? Play back and wait for them to push into you. Are they over-rotating? Run fakes and take the opposite site for free. Do they leave B side on Haven open with only a tripwire playing on it? Push B as a team. Sometimes all you need to win a game is giving your team just that little bit of direction. Yes, you can win without it, but with it, your odds of winning skyrocket. This is an outstanding tip for lower to mid elo, even extending a bit into higher ranks, and also goes hand in hand with shot calling. Ultimate economy. Managing ultimates, farming ultimates, and recognizing what ultimates the enemy team has is all ultimate economy. To manage ultimates, you need to understand what ultimates can have a determining factor in winning a round. Breach ult to take sites is infinitely more impactful than using jet knives to coordinate a push onto site. Know which ultimates are round winners. Once you figure this out, farm orbs every round to build up to those ultimates. We're going to use Breach as an example. Breach's ultimate is easily one of the best for winning a round. You can use this ultimate to easily take site. This is why it's important to farm this ultimate on a round-to-round basis. Here's the scenario. You have 2 ultimates, Breach and Sky. From there, you decide on using Breach to get you onto site. Once you have site, it's a 5 versus 3 situation. What do you do from here? Do you A, use Sky ultimate, or B, use nothing? The answer to this is generally going to be use nothing, as Sky's ultimate is another big ultimate that you can use to win an entire round. Once you've used an ultimate to effectively gain control of site or an area of map, and as a result have map advantage, it could be considered a waste to use another ultimate in the situation. Let's say the situation played out different, and it's a 3v3 situation once you've gained site control using Breach. This would be a perfect situation to use Sky's ultimate, as the round win could go either side. Lastly, for ultimate economy, we have recognizing what ultimates the enemy team has. For example, they have Sova and Brimstone ultimate. You're retaking the site in a 2v2 situation. It's very reasonable to assume once you've cleared site that both of them will be waiting for a tap to use their ultimates. So don't waste any time in tapping the bomb to force their ultimates out. If you wait, the timer goes down, and their ultimates are more impactful for delay. Ultimate economy is one of the absolute biggest factors in Valorant, and you must be sure that you're constantly taking a note of what ultimates your team has, the enemy team has, and you have to be sure you don't overspend ultimate abilities in situations that aren't necessary. This is the final tip, and this is a big one. Backseat Gaming is the act of giving unwanted or unnecessary instructions to your teammate while you're dead. Let your teammates play the game. You're not always going to be the best player in the lobby. Yeah, it's going to be frustrating seeing somebody play the way you wouldn't necessarily play the situation, but you need to let those players play because they may have different information or a different outlook on the match. Backseat Gaming can be frustrating to many players, and sometimes all it does is serve to confuse players as they're thinking about doing something and you're telling them to do something completely different. Respect how your teammates are playing. There are, in fact, 2 sides to this though. If your teammate's making blatant mistakes, like running down Haven A short every round and giving the enemy a free kill, tell them to stop. There's a line between correcting a player when they're playing blatantly wrong and backseating, which would be telling a player to play a situation a particular way. That about wraps up today's video. These are some of the most common and important things that almost nobody really talks about. These tips can be absolutely game-changing and could most definitely help you rank up. Don't neglect your aim training and game sense improvement, but make sure to implement these tips if you haven't already.
That's all we got for our video today, but remember that if you're really looking to improve at Valorant, I highly recommend checking out SkillCapped.com. We get it, you're just a player trying to get better at the game. That's why you're watching this video in the first place. You're capable of hitting that rank you deserve, but there's no shame in asking for a little help. At SkillCapped.com, we spend hours going through viewer-submitted replays to let you know all the mistakes that you're making. We also couple this with our Smurf commentaries to show players that it is possible to carry themselves out of whatever rank they're stuck in. It might seem hopeless at times, but trust me when I say we can help you out. All you have to do is check out SkillCapped.com. Link in the description below.